Welcome everybody to another episode, I guess, of Salesforce Revenue Cloud Office Hours. Today I want to talk more about subscription-based pricing. In the last session, we started to get into subscription-based pricing as it related to two ridiculous products that we added to the peanut butter and jelly sandwich bundle, which were the peanut butter and jelly sandwich support and the peanut butter and jelly sandwich club membership. The club membership is a community of like-minded peanut butter and jelly sandwich enthusiasts. And the peanut butter and jelly support is for people who forgot how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Their knife broke. They can't open the jar. Whatever it happens to be, they can call and get ideas for recipes. All of that is offered through our support service. I want to run everybody through the standard process from opportunity to quote to order to contract to renewal opportunity, just to give you a sense of the end-to-end process first and where subscriptions fit in that process. Let's see, we got a question here. If a customer is using subscription management SKU with CPQ, is it recommended that the native way of doing subscriptions in CPQ not expected to be used in favor of how subscription management is used? That's a complex question. I will table that for now. We'll talk about it a little bit later after we establish the fundamentals of what a subscription is. So we'll start with subscription management, the function inside of Salesforce CPQ. Before we talk about subscription management, the product offered by Revenue Cloud that is completely different than Salesforce CPQ. And that also got into a solution engineer question I got in the final round for a principal solution engineer role I tried to get at Salesforce. I did not get the job, but that was a question that was asked. What is the difference between subscription management and subscription management? If that's not a confusing question, I don't know what is. But let's talk about subscription management, the function inside of Salesforce CPQ, before we get to a more complex question. First of all, what is a subscription? A subscription is a product that is sold on a recurring basis, that is paid for on a given period of time. Might be annual, might be quarterly, might be monthly, could be weekly. In some cases, I suppose it could also be daily. If you think about perhaps a parking structure, you take your car to the airport, you park for 5 days. In essence, it's like a 5-day subscription, kind of. Maybe a little stretching it. I might be stretching it a little bit there, but that's the essence of it. Some common subscriptions we have: Amazon Prime, Netflix on the consumer side. You have leases, you have software subscriptions, you have managed services could be considered a subscription. You have a number of different types of products and services that could be considered subscriptions. Managed service providers, for example, could be considered a subscription. I offer consulting services on a recurring basis as well. My clients can sign up for X number of hours per month. That's what they get, and then they pay for that service over time.
Question.
Yes.
Question. Would the parking structure example you gave, would that also come under a usage example, like usage by others?
Yeah. It would depend on how the business wants to sell it, I imagine. If you think about, it would probably come down to more like in advance or in arrears. So if I wanted to pay in advance for 5 days of parking or something, I suppose I could do that. You can do that in Chicago with some parking structures. I'm going to pay in advance for 2 days. But it would probably, I mean, that's a good point. In reality, it's probably more of a usage thing. How many days did you use? And then you pay the bill at the end. So that might not be the best example, but I usually use parking as an example of perhaps daily proration or something like that instead of monthly.
I just wanted to understand if I was wrong, so no worries.
No, you could probably do it either way. I think a lot of it is dependent upon what is known in advance. In a consumption model, I don't really know in advance what I'm going to do. But with a subscription model, I'm picking a specific product or service defined deliverable, generally speaking. Well, what example could we use? Consumption could be, I go to Whole Foods Market and I go to the buffet and you pay, you know, $1,000 a pound at the buffet at Whole Foods. And I'm an idiot and I get like the heaviest food, the densest food items that exist. It's like you know, a shot of mercury in a glass, and therefore I pay way too much when I go to the buffet at Whole Foods. So in that case, based on what I end up consuming, quite literally, I'll pay for that. Whereas I might subscribe to a daily meal service where every single weekday I receive lunch as part of a subscription offering. I pay for it monthly, so I get, say, 20 meals per month delivered Monday through Friday, and I pay a fixed fee for that particular service. Any of those subscription type of things would be more on that subscription model. If I am going to use utilities or go to the buffet and I pay for whatever my consumption is at the back end of it, all that would be consumption. We could probably offer lots of examples and counterexamples and debate that topic for quite a while, which could be an interesting and fruitful conversation. But for now, we'll keep it fairly high level and introductory for this. We'd all start with the opportunity, just like always. And then if you remember from the previous episodes, I created a quote that's got my sandwich and it's got some subscriptions on it. It's a primary quote, therefore those products have synchronized from the quote lines to the opportunity products. For funsies, I added a partner. My partner in this is Salesforce because our PB&J membership is in Experience Cloud. I don't know, ridiculous example. I created a document as well. We'll get to documents later, but I created a document. After I created my quote and I closed this opportunity, I created an order. From the order, I created a contract. From the contract, I created a renewal opportunity, which we'll get to in a bit. To take you through the flow of the transaction records that are created, the first transaction record that I have is this opportunity. Inside of that, I've got the quote. On the quote, I have my different lines, my different products. I wrapped it all up in a bundle called the peanut butter and jelly sandwich bundle. And then I have my peanut butter and jelly sandwich club membership and my PB&J support inside of this. I have independent quantities as well, where I can only get one quantity of support. Support is support, regardless of how much you use it, at least for my organization. And my PB&J's club membership, not all the people who want sandwiches are going to get a membership, or maybe you have people like me who are going to have 2 sandwiches. So I don't necessarily have an exact match between, or proportionate match between the quantity of sandwiches and the quantity of people who want the membership to the PB&J club. Because I set my start date and my subscription term, CPQ is automatically going to prorate that for the whole duration. Now I've priced these differently. In the case of the PB&J club membership, I'm going on a monthly model here. So I take my 1 month of the membership times the number of licenses times the total time, and that gets me to $720 for a year. And then with the peanut butter jelly sandwich support, it's $10 for 12 months. That's what I've configured on the product. And that's how I ended up with my $10 here, $10 for the total quantity, and then $10 for the whole year, because I only have quantity 1, but I have quantity 1 for a whole year. That's where we ended up with this really expensive bundle of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, 10 sandwiches, 6 memberships, and support for $870. From there, I closed the opportunity. I won it. Hooray. Life is great. Now, oh, I thought I pulled that related list on here. I created the order after I closed this opportunity. And that is the order that we see here. Quote, order, contract. That's the order that we tend to go. You don't have to create an order to create a contract with subscriptions in CPQ. You can contract straight from the opportunity and skip the order process entirely. However, generally, with companies of any size and scale, they have downstream systems that need to be informed of what was sold and what goods and services we promised to deliver to the customer. And that promise is captured on the order. I was asked yesterday, talking to someone about CPQ, what the purpose of the order is. And that's our commitment. We promise to deliver these goods and services to you at this address for this amount for these specific items. Once I've got my order, that's when I go through the contracting process. Now, contracts in Salesforce CPQ are a bit of a misnomer. People think contracts and they think documents and redlining and back and forth and legal stuff, which it is. And we have contract lifecycle management solutions to handle those scenarios. In the context of Salesforce CPQ, the contract is a bucket that holds subscriptions. That's really its primary function. And it's from that contract that we then create our renewal opportunities and our amendment opportunities to either give us a crystal ball and see the future of our sales in the case of a renewal opportunity for the next 12-month period of time, or make changes to the current contract via the amendment process. And we can talk a little bit more about that later. But I went opportunity, quote, once a deal was done, I generated my order. There are several ways to generate orders in Salesforce CPQ. We can talk about those in a future call. In fact, let me add those to the backlog in the board so I don't forget. Now, the order was created. In order to contract an order, it must be activated. So I've activated the order. Behind the scenes, you've got some standard fields about the activated date, the status of the order, and things like that. And those values are set automatically by Salesforce when you activate the order. One thing to note, the order object here, this is the standard order object in Salesforce. In order to install CPQ, as you saw in a previous episode of Office Hours, you have to enable orders. There are 4 different checkboxes that you can check on the order to configure it. We can talk about those later as well. Once I have my order created, I'm now ready to create a contract. The reason that the contract is created after the order is because sometimes the order might change a little bit. For example, some companies want their subscriptions for the products that the customer has purchased to begin when the product ships from the warehouse. Sometimes they want the subscriptions to begin after the machines have been installed on the property. Let's say that you're a manufacturer and you sell large machinery. You sell the large machinery. The sale closes today on the 15th of March, but the shipment is not actually going to get to the customer's site for a month or 2, maybe 3 months, maybe a half a year. Well, the warranty on the machine is for 12 months. Let's say, in a more exaggerated example, that it's a 6-month shipment process because this machine is big and complex and it requires a lot of logistical efforts. The whole machine's not going to get on site and assembled for 6 months. Does it make sense to begin the warranty on the machine today? No. They're not even going to get the machine for 6 months. So that's where we would leave that order potentially in draft status. Once it's installed, maybe we adjust our start date on the order and the order products that fall underneath it. And at that point, we'll contract because that contract is going to be effective on installation. That installation date can also be a trigger for other downstream processes, including invoicing, revenue recognition, and things like that. So I may sell it today. I might send the customer an invoice today that's due in net 60 or net 30 terms, but I can't recognize revenue for that. And Kranti can keep me honest here on this. I can't recognize revenue until they actually receive the thing. Is that right, Kranti? Like until they receive the equipment?
Unless the performance obligation, that's what it's called in revenue terms, is completed, which is customer has acknowledged or customer has received, or in terms of tangible goods, it could be received, but if it's like a software, excuse me, it can be downloaded. Once it's downloaded, your obligation is done. You can start recognizing. Customer may now start using the software, but as a contract, this obligation is done. Excuse me, I was eating something and I'm choking. So let me get some water.
Please don't choke. That would be the most tragic Revenue Cloud office hours in history. Yeah, so it's the order can be a triggering event for any number of downstream processes, from shipment and fulfillment to provisioning in the case of software, to billing processes, to revenue recognition. There are a whole bunch of downstream processes that could be influenced by the order. And in situations where you have an integration present, the order and the order products are the most common integration points between these different systems. In many ways, the order is the start of a number of processes. It's the end of that set quoting process, and it is the beginning of the billing process.
I'm just curious, John, did you mention that the order is in a draft status till then, or?
When it's created, yes, this is the first status, but I've already activated it here.
Activated, okay, got it.
Okay, and then those activation fields, which I don't think are on the page layout right now. Maybe they are. Let's see. They are not. There it is, activated date. This is a system field set by Salesforce. You'll also see in the order history that I activated it on the 13th.
Gosh, I missed that activation piece, so I was sorry.
Once you have created your order and you've activated it, an important process thing to keep in mind is we don't go back to the opportunity in the quote and change any of that anymore. That's a big no-no, because we need to track where the money came from all the way back to the beginning, so we can answer the question, well, what was originally sold that contributed to this revenue right here? We have money in the bank. Where the hell did it come from? That's an important question to answer for any business. Once the order is created and it's activated, now I can create my contract. Now, the contracting process in CPQ is related to both assets and subscriptions. Assets are one-time products. In the case of the last example, it would be that machine that was sold. It would create an asset record in the system. Or if I sold a phone, there would be an asset record for this phone that I could then add the serial number for the phone or the serial number of the machine. Or maybe it's something more generic, like a blender bottle. Maybe I have a jiu-jitsu academy and maybe I order 100 bottles. Well, they're not going to serialize a water bottle. That doesn't make any sense. So I might instead have one asset record with a quantity of 100 instead of 100 asset records with a quantity of 1. We can get into asset conversion later. That's what that is. If you were wondering what that field on the product object is, asset conversion, that's what that means. 1 per line or 1 per unit. The subscriptions, on the other hand, instead of creating assets, they'll create subscription records, those recurring products, where every single month I'm paying for the PB&J Club membership. Every month I'm paying for PB&J support. Those are going to create subscription records on a contract. The place that you see the assets and subscriptions is on the account. You'll see the assets as a related list on the account. You'll see subscriptions as a related list on the account. You'll see the contracts as a related list on the account. But you will not see asset records on the actual contract, even though we use the contracting process to create both assets and subscriptions. The way that I think about this is when you were a kid and you played with Play-Doh. If you didn't play with Play-Doh as a kid, I'm sorry that you had a tragic childhood. Like, you know, the spaghetti strainer, you put the Play-Doh in the thing and you push it and it goes out in like two different directions. That's essentially what the contracting process is doing. It takes a look through those quote line records, and what it's looking for is whether or not each quote line uses subscription pricing. If a product does not use subscription pricing, it is considered to be a one-time product and is therefore going to create an asset record, because asset records represent one-time products. If the subscription pricing field on that quote line is not null and contains either fixed price or percent of total as its pick list values, then that's going to go off in the other direction and create a subscription record on a contract. That's what we'll see here when we click into the subscription, click into the contract rather, and we see the subscriptions for the PB&J Club membership and the support. If we drill one level down, we can see a lot more fields on the subscription that CPQ is keeping track of for us, including the quote line from which it was generated, the contract it's on, the product it represents. Behind the scenes, it's not in the page layout. There's also an order product lookup. So if I'm using orders and I'm creating my contract from the order object, we'll also see that order field populated here on the page layout. And even if it's not in the page layout, it will still be populated behind the scenes. That's important because it gives us a sense of all of the source material that created the subscription in the first place. And if later in the process I make amendments or changes to the subscription, those changes will be captured in separate subscription records on the contract. Let's say that I increase my PB&J Club membership from 6 to 7, 3 months from now. In that scenario, I would see a different start date, the same end date, and I would see only a quantity of 1 on that subscription. The subscriptions tell us the story of what happened on this contract. You can almost think of it like a chronology. First, we started with 6 of these and 1 of these, and then I made an amendment and I increased the quantity of PB&J Club memberships from 6 to 7. So I would see another record with quantity 1 and a start date of, in that case, example, 6/13/24 if it was 3 months from now. And I would also see prorated amounts for the product because we're not paying for the full duration. We're not getting the full duration. We're only doing 9 of 12 months. CPQ will automatically make that adjustment for us. A separate call out here, during the amendment process, price changes are not allowed. The exception is the proration of subscription products, and CPQ will take care of that for you. From this contract, then, the next important thing we need to think about from a process perspective is what's next. When this contract ends, what's next? We started with an opportunity. It was called opportunity number 1, PB&J 1. From that opportunity, we created a quote. From the quote, we created an order. From the order, we created a contract. From the contract, we create a renewal opportunity. The renewal opportunity is going to pull over renewable subscription products. Note that on this renewal opportunity, there are no one-time products. There are no pieces of bread. There's no jelly. There's no peanut butter. All we have are the subscription products. Why? Because they already purchased the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They're not going to purchase it again. That would be gross. Could you imagine selling a peanut butter and jelly sandwich again a year after it was sold? I don't want to think about what that scenario is going to be like. What's interesting, though, is that we see the 2 products for the subscriptions here. But if we look at the renewal quote and edit the lines, something interesting happens. We still see white bread, wheat bread, creamy peanut butter, and grape jelly. Huh. What's going on here? Well, we sold the initial peanut butter and jelly sandwich as a bundle that contained several things. In this implementation of CPQ, we're preserving the bundle structure all the way through the process. We're keeping these products together. As a result, they go through the whole thing. But what's interesting about this is even though I see white bread, creamy peanut butter, grape jelly, I see quantity 20, 10, and 10, my net totals are 0 because I'm not actually increasing the quantity at all. There's nothing new here. And that's why while we see them, we're seeing them for the purpose of context so that I know this was originally sold as a whole bundle that contained a bunch of stuff. But I'm only renewing these top 2 lines here. These are the ones that contain pricing. From here on the renewal, I'm going to do the same basic process. Once I win the renewal, they say, yes, we want another year of support. We want another year of these 6 memberships. I'll win the deal, create an order. That'll be the second order created, create another contract. That'll be contract number 2. And then I'll create a renewal of the renewal. And around we go until they say stop. The idea behind these subscriptions then is that I want to continue selling this product over and over and over, just like most of us on this call have probably been Amazon Prime subscribers for years. How much money has Amazon gotten from us just from that subscription? It's astounding how much money Amazon makes from Amazon Prime, which balances out all those people that they don't really order a lot with the people who order things entirely too often, including myself. Some other things to point out, if I go back to my renewal opportunity, there are a couple of signals that CPQ gives me that tells me this is a renewal opportunity. Some of them are glaringly obvious, like the renewal checkbox that is checked for you when it's a renewal. Indicates this is a renewal opportunity. There's nothing fancy to it. It's a checkbox. CPQ checks it when it's a renewal. The other dead giveaway is the renewed contract field is populated with the contract from which this opportunity was created. And then if I go back to that contract, I can see both the renewal opportunity and the opportunity down here. Now, a slight project logistic or implementation logistic rather, is when we implement CPQ, you could potentially end up with hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of renewal opportunities called renewal opportunity. What we will often do during an implementation is rename the renewal opportunity to be something more aligned with the naming convention of the other opportunities in the system. Company name dash renewal opportunity dash close date or whatever you want to do. So keep that in mind as well as you go through this. We could talk about the contracting process and the renewal creation process. Suffice it to say that renewal forecast is the field that creates the actual renewal opportunity, and renewal quoted creates the quote on the renewal opportunity. There's a whole bunch of stuff to dive into at a later date when it comes to those 2 fields. There are some nuances there, some gotchas, and some architectural guidance I will try to provide to give you some more insights into how all of that works. But contracting and renewals and amendments is a whole rabbit hole of its own that we can talk about in a future call. But for now, let's go back to the beginning on the initial quote that was sold and take a look at some of these subscription products. These are the quote lines that I sold originally, and let's start with the PB&J Club membership. The PB&J Club membership quote line number 16. It's got a list price of 10, and it's a subscription product. I know it's a subscription product because it's got a default subscription term. It's also got a populated subscription pricing field. When I go to the product itself, I'll see similar values. In the subscriptions information, I see subscription pricing has a value, fixed price. The subscription term is 1, and then the subscription type is renewable. Subscription pricing is one of the most important fields on the product. probably after the active checkbox. If the product's not active, you can't sell it in the first place. So the first behavior or the first question we have to ask for a product in whether it's CPQ or Core Sales Cloud is, can I sell this product? Is this active? If it's active, the active checkbox has to be true, along with the price book entry and the price book, which we talked about in a previous episode. One of the other big questions that we have to ask about this product is it one time or is it recurring? If it's one time and should create an asset record, then the subscription pricing field should be null. In other words, we are not using subscription pricing for this product. But if it is a recurring product, whether it's fixed price, $10, $100 a month, or percent of total, like a warranty on a piece of equipment, you spend $100,000 on a machine, and the warranty is 5% of the total cost of the machine, then that subscription is going to be $5,000. In most cases, for the period of 12 months. So subscription pricing tells us one time or recurring. That's the field that answers it. Now, because of a function in CPQ called twin fields, whatever value it is that I have set here on the product record will twin or map to the corresponding field on the quote line automatically. This is the field then that CPQ is looking at when it needs to split this quote line or the quote lines on the quote into the two buckets, one time or recurring, asset or subscription. We can talk more about twin fields later. Suffice it to say, in my opinion, twin fields are one of the most underrated functions in CPQ. There's a ton of value in passing data from upstream to downstream. Twin fields let you do that without code, without flows, without any other core automation, as long as your data types and your field API names are an exact match between a particular set of objects, which is documented in the community. Just go to the community and look for twin fields in CPQ or CPQ twin fields. It'll pop right up. Same thing with Google. But we pass the value from the product to this quote line. Now, the next field that's going to matter a lot, especially when it comes to subscriptions, is the subscription term. We look at the help text here, term length of this subscription, only applicable if the product is a subscription. One-time products don't have a subscription term because they're not subscriptions. But if I have a product that is a subscription, I need to define for the system for how long does the customer get access to this product for this price? For how long does the customer get access to this product for this price? In this particular case, the subscription term is 1. Because of the package settings for CPQ that I have in the system, subscription term unit of month and subscription prorate precision of monthly plus daily, if my memory serves me correctly, the subscription term value 1 on this record means 1 month. How much is it for 1 month? That's when we go to the related list. We look at our price book entry and we see $10. So this product has been configured to be $10 per month. Let's look at the other product, subscription product for support. PB&J Support is also a subscription product. How do I know that? Subscription pricing has a value. It has subscription pricing. Again, if this was a one-time product, subscription pricing would, could, and should be null. But we see that the subscription term here is 12. Because of the package configuration of the subscription term unit being 1 month and the prorate precision being monthly plus daily, this subscription term of 12 means 12 months. Specifically between those two fields in the package, it's the subscription term unit field that determines what this means. There are two values, monthly, daily, or month and day, or whatever. Very rarely will your subscription term unit be day? And it's often confused because customers say, yeah, but we need to prorate to the day, therefore we need the unit to be day. No, 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 no. The subscription term unit is how your product is priced, not how it's sold. If you need help figuring out what the proration precision should be for a given customer, and they're not quite sure, and they think, oh, it should be day, and you're going, it just doesn't feel right. Chances are it's month, because that's 99+% of all subscription use cases is monthly. But if you need help, just go to their pricing page on their website. How do they price their product? Public facing. If you go to Salesforce's website, you'll see that their licenses are, for example, $150 per month. That tells me that the subscription term unit for the configuration of the CPQ package should be month. How much is it going to cost for 12 months of support? That's when I go to the price book entry, $10. So we have $10 for 12 months of support, but we have $10 per month for the PB&J Club membership. And that's why our prices are so different. How does CPQ know how to prorate it? That comes from the start date and the subscription term of the quote. You'll see subscription term in two primary locations. The first is on the product record, like I just showed. The subscription term on the product tells us how it's priced, and then the subscription term on the quote is telling us how it's being sold right now. In the case of the support, I have a subscription term on the product of 12 and a price of $10. That is the same as this subscription term of 12 for this quote, how I'm going to sell these products right now. Therefore, I can expect that the price of support on this quote, because the subscription term is the same as the product term, is going to be the same as the price book entry. But in the case of PB&J Club membership, the PB&J Club membership has a product subscription term of 1 and a price of $10, which means it's $10 for 1 month of PB&J Club membership. But the quote has a subscription term of 12. Well, the way the math works is I essentially say I have 12 months on the quote divided by the 1 month on the product gives me a value of 12. That's what we call our prorate multiplier. There's a field on the quote line called prorate multiplier. And it's probably not in my page layout. It's not in my page layout. It's in the background. But the prorate multiplier for this particular quote line is going to be 12 because I have the 12 months of the quote term divided by the product subscription term of 1 month gets me 12. And then I take my price book entry, $10, multiply it by the prorate multiplier to get my prorated list price of $120. Then I take that times the quantity, that gets me 720. 120 times 6 gets me $720. That's an overly simplified example, but it's the general idea of how this proration works. We have how the product is priced, how product management wants it priced, what it looks like on the website. It's $10 a month, it's $100 a month, it's $1,000 a month. But then we have the reality of the situation, which is how is it being sold on this particular deal? That's what the subscription term here tells us. There are two ways to define the subscription duration on a quote. You always need the start date, and you need to define how long it's going to be from the start date. The most common way to do that is with the subscription term. Some companies, a lot of clients, will even default the subscription term to 12 or 36 or whatever is most common, 80-20 analysis. What do you sell 80% of the time? Well, we sell 36-month contracts. Cool. 3-year contracts. Let's pre-populate subscription term with 36. Keep things simple. If the rep wants to change it, they can. The other way you can define an end date, the other way you can define the subscription duration is with the start date and the end date combination. Start date and end date will also tell us how long this should be. When it's a renewal or an amendment, the end date is populated automatically by CPQ, so there's nothing to worry about on the user side. But what happens if the user populates the start date, the subscription term, and the end date? How does CPQ prioritize? Which duration should it use? Let's say that I put a start date of 3/1/24, and I have a subscription term of 12, but I have an end date of 4/1/24. Would this quote be for 1 month or 12 months? And why? Does anybody have an idea? Don't all speak at once. The end date wins. In a contest between the subscription term, the end date, and the end date wins because it is a more precise value. It's more specific. 12 is a general number of months. The end date is an exact day on which the subscription should end. This is where it's the general principle of CPQ comes into play. In general, in Salesforce CPQ, the more specific thing wins. For example, a few examples. If I apply an additional discount on the quote and say that everything on this quote is 10% off, but for quote line number 2, I give an exception and say this quote line has an additional discount of 5%, and quote line number 5 has a 10 or 15% discount. In that case, all quote lines except number 2 and number 5 would receive a 10% discount if they're discountable, but quote line 2 would receive 5%, and quote line 5 would receive 15%, because the most specific thing wins. Or if you have discount schedules, because you have volume-based pricing, and you want to apply different discount levels once you hit different quantities of products that are being sold. In that case, if you have the discount schedule assigned to a product, but also to a product option, and also to a contracted price, well, if I sell a product that has a contracted price on a discount schedule on a contracted price, that beats everything else. So you might have 3 different things, and that's how the prioritization works, is the more narrow the scenario, the more it's prioritized. It's the same thing here with the subscription term and the end date. Subscription term is more general. It's 12 months. Some of those months will have 28 days, some will have 31 days. Because the end date tells me the exact day on which this is going to end, that's the field value that wins. Generally speaking, on new quotes, I tend to push clients in the direction of using subscription term to define the initial contract, because then the end date is defined by CPQ, later happens automatically under the water, and it just works. Sometimes you'll get in debates with clients because they'll say that the start date is March 1st and they want the end date to be March 1st of 2025. But in the context of Salesforce CPQ, that is 1 year and 1 day. The way CPQ works is you take the start date plus a year, that means that the end date or the last day of this subscription will be February 28th of 2025, because it buttresses the end date right up against that anniversary. So the new contract would start on March 1st of 2025. Going back to the question in the chat, if a customer is using subscription management product and Salesforce CPQ for subscription management, is it recommended that the native way of using subscriptions in CPQ not be used in favor of how subscription management is used? Honest answer on this one, I have no idea. The challenge of this question is that you've got, from what I know, I don't know much about subscription management, the product. I've not implemented myself, so it's hard for me to say. And based on some context clues that I've picked up over the past 6 months, it doesn't seem like there's much of a future for subscription management, the product, because revenue lifecycle management is going to be the new big thing. And I suspect this is just conjecture and speculation on my part. Safe harbor, blah, blah, blah. I need to get one of those slides. I would not be surprised if that kind of rides off into the sunset quietly. And then the big push is on revenue lifecycle management for everything. I think that's the direction that things are probably going to go. Until that happens, they'll probably still sell it. I don't know of a lot of implementations of subscription management, the product as it is. I know there are some, and I think from the way it feels from my side, it feels like it was a first shot at RLM. Like, we want to do something new. We want to handle more subscription use cases, self-service, product-led growth, but also allow direct sales. So it seemed at the time that subscription management was a move in that direction. But I don't think it got the toehold that it needed. And then you also had the Velocity acquisition. So then then you have B2B commerce. You got all this stuff that's different products, different data models, et cetera, different processes, different capabilities. And I get the sense that the ultimate goal is to homogenize all of that into a cohesive platform that can do all of it. It can do direct, do self-serve, do product-led growth, because it's a whole bunch of objects and a boatload of API access. So the whole nature of what this product is changing. And it's coming onto core as well, so that you're not going to have all of these extra packages installed. You're going to flip a switch, and now you have throw some licenses at your org, and now you've got revenue lifecycle management in here, whatever modules you have. The pricing is something that I don't really understand yet. It seems very consumption and API hit based. So as we move forward with revenue lifecycle management, it's going to be crucial for architects and consultancies and clients, whoever's implementing, to be very mindful of how much they're consuming on the API side, because that will drastically influence the price tag that they have to pay each month or quarter or whatever the billing cycle is. Because right now, you're paying for butts and seats. I have this many CPQ users. Each one of them is X dollars per month per user per year. On the billing side, it's price based on revenue processed through the billing product. With revenue lifecycle management, it's how many API calls are you making? At least my understanding could be incorrect. So I'm going to put a big asterisk as a caveat there. But over time, we're going to get parity of a lot of existing functionality. I'll say that revenue lifecycle management is further along than I thought it would be. There's still a long way for it to go before it reaches true parity with what already exists. But I like the direction that it's going. And I see a bright future. I also see a really expensive product. The product's going to be expensive. The implementations are going to be expensive because every customer is going to want to customize the hell out of it. The big gripes about the current setup is you can't customize enough. But my fear as a consultant in the future is that with revenue lifecycle management, you'll be able to customize too much. And because that's the case, every client thinks they're special. My business is unique. You've never seen a business that does what we do. Okay, sure. So everyone's going to customize the hell out of this product, which means there's going to be no consistency across implementations, which means the context to make adjustments to any given system is going to go up, which means it's going to take more time, energy, and money. So, and then the more freedom you have, the more cliffs you can walk off accidentally. So sometimes it's nice when you're playing gutter ball at the bumper bowling, get those bumpers in there to avoid the gutter balls, and you complain because you're like, well, I can't do yeah, but you're not going in the gutter. You at least hit something. But if you're a skilled bowler, you know what you're doing. And this is a terrible metaphor, but yeah. If a solution is API first, how do consultancies typically price on integrations? I mean, most consultancies are going to do what they always do, billable hours. We estimate it's going to take 1,000 hours to build all the integrations with this product. In all cases, no one knows how long this shit's going to take. It's going to take what it's going to take. It's probably going to take more than you think or want it to take. And that's where a lot of project frustrations happen with any product, but especially with Revenue Cloud, is that consultancies come out with these hyper optimistic project timelines and scopes and budgets. Oh, we'll implement all of CPQ and billing with only 6 weeks of development, and it'll be for $250K. And customers go, that's great. Fast forward a year, you've just closed your 6th change order for a total of $300,000 additional dollars. The project is red. The client is pissed. The consultants are burned out. Half of them have quit. Not like I've seen this firsthand. But that's where you end up. And I think that's going to be even harder to scope. I would almost suggest for clients and consultancies to just work more that recurring revenue model and just say, okay, we need bodies for a year. What's that going to cost? It's like, I need Kevin for 20 hours a week for 12 months. Cool. We'll staff him for 12 months because we know this project is going to take 12 months at least. So I think that's where you could ultimately hedge. Clients want to know when it's going to go live. They want an exact go live date, and they want the consultancy to bend over, or their own team to bend over backwards to hit this arbitrary date. But the reality of any of these implementations is no one knows how long this is going to take, especially if it's a long used org where there's a bunch of stuff that's been built. You don't know what's in there. There's a lot that you're going to unpack intentionally and unintentionally on your implementation. And so having realistic expectations that the timeline that we give at the beginning is 90% bullshit and it's going to change is just, that's just the honest expectation, because no one knows. We'll guess, we'll get as close as we can. But at the same time, I would love to see knowledge work in general be more honest with themselves about how little we know this about how long any of this is going to take. Doing really good creative work takes time, and you can't just pack it into 3 sprints because you think that everything should fit in nice, neat little boxes. The world doesn't work like that. People can say I'm a curmudgeon, or other consultancies are welcome to criticize my take on this and say, well, our business does it like this. Well, not really. I've seen your projects. I've fixed your projects. You're not as smooth as you think you are in the new market that you are, but that's a whole other rant. I don't want to throw too much shade or use specific names. I'll get another nasty gram from a legal team. But anyway, yeah, that's all I got for this week. Hopefully that was helpful in answering some subscription questions. Feel free to throw things my way if you want me to dive into anything else more specific. Otherwise, next time we can talk more about I don't know, maybe the contract or order management or something like that, or get more live examples, or I'll create some other bundling things to talk through. We'll figure it out. Kind of wing it. But anyway, everybody have a good weekend. I will talk to you soon, and take care.
Thank you, John.